tell me about your meetings with Jan Karski.
I met him in the summer of '91 in Washington. I met him at a dinner in McLean, Virginia, a dinner given by Congressman Solash. He was at that time the ranking member of the Foreign Relations Committee.
And what were your first impressions of Mr. Karski?
Well, it was pretty much as I imagined him. He was my hero for many, many years. And I would say to someone like me, a very special hero, because it's me that he was talking about or tried to talk about when he succeeded in his mission, and he left Poland during the war, made his way to England and then to Washington.
But you weren't aware about him and his work during the war, obviously. So talk to me about why that would have made a difference had you known that this man existed at that time.
Well, for me and for all of us at that time, it would be a tremendous, tremendous boost to our morale to know that someone, a hero, was able to tell the world, and not only just the world, but the leaders of the world. Churchill in England, although he did not succeed quite to get as far as Churchill, but Roosevelt, FDR in Washington, that he was able to bring these terrible news about what was happening to the Jewish people in Poland. Now, to know that someone was able to tell our story and possibly therefore to bring about a change in that, a change for the better, that would have made all the difference in the world to us.
When did you first hear about Professor Karski?
I learned about him first actually in a book which was published in the early 80s by Professor Wyman, David Wyman, a book titled The Abandonment of the Jews.
And at that time, then you said to yourself, is this man still living, perhaps, I'm guessing?
I did not hear about Jan Karski. I knew, ironically even, I did hear about another courier from Poland, and his name was Jan Nowak-Jeziorański, whom I knew much earlier and much better. I suspect that these two were not terribly close to each other at that time. And because in my conversations with Nowak-Jeziorański, I never actually heard the name.
He never brought up Jan Karski's name?
No.
Why do you think it's important to remember and establish the legacy of Jan Karski?
It was always important, and I suppose it will always remain important, especially for young people who, for whom the story of the Holocaust slowly becomes ancient history, but regrettably that was not, perhaps in the scale of it was of course incomparable in the history of the world, but many Holocausts have been happening since, and regrettably, whether it's Serbia or Rwanda or Sudan, they're still happening. And so, well, today, Jan Karski isn't as necessary, perhaps you could say, as then, because today we have iPads and many telephones and so on. So these stories really become known. Now what's happening and so on is unfortunately not all that different, you know. Largely, whether it's Rwanda or Yugoslavia, people are not anxious or eager to do all that much about it.
And how do you think Jan Karski can help improve relations between Polish Christians and Polish Jews? Or between the nation of Poland and Israel?
You know, I am asked that question and about that subject often, and I can never tell my audiences, especially young audiences, because I particularly like to talk to young Jewish kids, but also to young Poles who nowadays express so much curiosity about what happened, and that's so encouraging. And I always tell them how important to me is what happened during the war, what happened, how many Polish people saved Jews. And I'm then told, well, but look, what about the others? I said, of course there were the others. And of course they were quite numerous. But I said, remember, in Poland, that one man who saved the Jews acted differently in a way. I mean, he acted, let's say, the same, and the result was the same. He saved the Jewish person or the family. But to compare him to the Dane, and the Danish people were wonderful. I love them for what they've done during the war. But still, it was not the same, because there is what I call in Polish waga ryzyka. It's the weight of the risk. Because when you compare the Dane, and they were wonderful, I repeat, that Danish family, were they caught harboring a Jewish family, what would have happened to them? The man, the head of the family, most likely would have been thrown into the jail. He would have spent a year, maybe 2, possibly even 3. The family wouldn't have suffered at all. The Jewish family, of course, would have been taken to Auschwitz in any case. Now let's compare that to what would have happened with a Polish family if, let's say, in their attic they were hiding a Jewish family. All of them, both the Jews from the attic, and not just the head of the family, but the entire family, would have been put against the wall of that house and shot.
Is this surprising?
They would have been killed. And so when we see the 2 trees planted in their honor by Yad Vashem in the garden, they're exactly the same trees. But the risk was so very, very different. That's what I'm trying to tell young Jewish boys and girls and young Polish boys and girls.
That's excellent. Thank you so much. Is there anything else you want to add?